Everybody. Welcome back. Hope you had a great weekend. I had a pretty good weekend until I hit Saturday. If you watched my Instagram reel this morning, you saw that I fought Peloton and Peloton won. I'm doing a total strength program with Andy Spears. If anyone's done it, it's fantastic. I have never been so strong, but I thought I was a little bit stronger than I actually am, and I threw my back out Saturday afternoon. But what's fun, and I might write a blog post about this, is I kept saying, oh, I'm getting so old. It's hard to get old, and I can't do this because I'm so old. My husband and a couple of my friends said, it's not that you're getting old, it's that you're an athlete, and athletes sometimes push themselves too hard and get injured. And I was like, look at me, I'm an athlete. So I thought that was a nice reframe of what I was dealing with, but I'm on the mend, I'm doing fine. I will be back at it within a couple weeks. But today, I am very excited about this week's show because I've known Andy Robinson on Twitter for a while, and we got to meet in person in September at Content Marketing World, where she was bestowed with a trophy. So I was very, very excited to know her and see her name get called, and she can talk a little bit about that. But before I bring her on, let me tell you a little bit about Andy Robinson. Reaching people in unique ways is a passion of hers. She is obsessed with understanding how and why people react to certain types of content. In general, she says, humans use their visual sense more than any other, which is why visual communications is so important. I agree. Providing current and potential customers with information to improve their lives while building brand loyalty is her favorite thing about marketing. She talks to customers when and where sales representatives can't, through a website, mobile app, or social media. When your customers are in the comfort of their own homes, they can be reached. When they're standing in front of a rack of competing products, they can be reached. She takes digital and makes it more than just a concept. In her current role as global content leader for Corteva Agriscience, she has created a content operations function that helps the company's marketers use content best practices and understand how content marketing can help improve their customer outreach. She also, in her spare time, consults with local small business owners in Indianapolis on their marketing efforts through her consulting business called Hijinks Marketing. So please join me in welcoming Andy Robinson. Hi, Andy.
Hi, everyone. How are you? I see
We're so
Monita's
glad
already
you're
on
here.
here. Monita's
Hi,
already
Mo.
on.
Oh, she says she wouldn't miss this for the world. Oh, Mo, you're so sweet. We're so glad to have you here. And like I said last week, you're coming on again one of these days because everybody wants to know what you're doing now and where you are. So get ready. I'm going to send you an email. But today is all about Andy. And Andy, I'm so happy that you're here. So I know I read your bio, but in your own words, just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got here.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a winding road. If anyone's ever heard me tell my story, it's unusual. My undergraduate degree is actually in juvenile justice. So I was a juvenile probation officer and a social worker for many years. Was on my way to law school, took my LSAT, was all ready to go. Met my husband and decided to take some time off and have some kiddos. And my kiddos are now 20 and 22. So hard to believe. But when I went back into the work world, the corporate environment, I got a job at Eli Lilly, working in their marketing area, and found that I really loved it. So I went back to school and got my MBA in marketing. And then about 9 years ago, I got a job at a company called Dow AgroSciences, which was a subsidiary of Dow Chemical. And then about 5 years ago or so, Dow announced that they were going to merge with DuPont, and then they were going to split into three companies, and all of their agriculture businesses would be spun out into a new company, which is where I work now, called Corteva Agriscience. So I've basically been with the same company for about 9 years now, and I lead our content operations, which is what you alluded to a few minutes ago, but definitely a winding road. And I always tell people I love marketing, but I do digital because I'm a geek. I don't mind being called a geek. I have it in several of my social media profiles. I love digital. I love everything related to it. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
Awesome. And you've kind of got two gigs going on. You've got Corteva Agriscience, but you've also got Hijinks Marketing. So let's talk about your main job first. Tell us a little bit. I know that you built out this whole content plan and how you encourage other people on the team to utilize content in a strategic manner. So for those watching who are looking to build out something like that, whether they're a large global enterprise or they're a small local retailer, how can they best organize their content to make sure that it's working for their business?
Yeah, and actually, I'm working on this section of my book right now, which I'll talk about here in a minute or two before we get off the call.
You heard it here first.
That's right. I think both, small operations as well as large operations like ours can do content marketing. And I think, sometimes small businesses think, oh, I can't do content marketing. It's not for me. But I think the ability to humanize your business is even greater with small businesses. It's your local community. It's people you may know. You have more of an opportunity to put the owner and the employees in front of people to really put a human face on that, on your marketing operations. When it comes to what I do at Corteva, I work with probably around 40 or 50 marketing teams around the world. So we sell in 140 countries and we have 21,000 employees. So I work with a lot of those different teams, helping them learn how they can use content marketing in a better way. Basically all things that touch content. I also manage 5 of our platforms that are related to content. So our DAM, which I talked about, was my presentation at last year's Content Marketing World. And then a couple of other platforms that we use, our campaign management platform and some others. So really all things related to content is what I do at Corteva. I'm also the program leader for our global content marketing program, which basically allows us to create content at the global level and then make it so that the local teams can adjust it for their local marketing strategies or local go-to-market strategies, while still having approved content that is on topics that we want to be known as thought leaders for. So lots of different things under my area. Also social media. So I have a lot to do with social media within our group. But yeah, so lots of things going on with Corteva.
Wow, that is a ton. So then it sounds like, you're kind of working on a big scale with Corteva, but then you can take that and translate it to these small businesses when you're working as in your role at Hijinks. So talk a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, so probably about, 10 or 12 years ago, when I was during a period of unemployment, and I decided, what, I'm going to try to go out on my own. And I started Hijinks. And, I took on clients here from the local area in Indianapolis, restaurants and, some other businesses here locally, and really provided marketing advice, marketing strategy for them. Where do they go? What channels should they use? What should they put out into the world? And I've just kept it all of these years. I haven't had clients in a little while because I've been so busy with work. Pre-pandemic, I was doing a lot of traveling around the world, meeting with customers and meeting with our marketing teams in Europe and Latin America. And so just didn't have a lot of time for my side gig. But now I'm kind of ramping back up as I'm finishing up my book. It's my kind of public identity when it comes to content marketing. It's what people know me as. So, looking forward to, someday, leaving the corporate environment and, being consultant full time. So.
That's great. So because you have both of these hats you wear, one side is with this big worldwide company and one is with small local retailers or businesses in Indianapolis, are there best practices that you see that can be relayed to both? And are there also some that you kind of hold, this particular mechanism is really only for big companies and this is really only going to work well with small companies? Is there any way that you differentiate like that, or do you just kind of see it, whatever works for you works?
Yeah, so in my book, The Content Puzzle, I talk a lot about the pieces of the content marketing puzzle. So, there are a lot of different pieces and parts that go into content strategy. And I think really the biggest difference is between big organizations like the one I work for and smaller companies is that kind of amount of resources and effort that they can put into content marketing. So big company like ours, obviously we work with large agencies, we do a lot of research, we have more people and monetary resources to put into creative design and things like that. So smaller organizations, local companies can still do this, but they may not have
Oh, I think we got frozen. We'll give it a second and see if Andy comes back. And Gramercy's going to bark while we do it. Such is the life of being online. There she is.
Okay, sorry.
Technical difficulties that happen.
That's okay. So smaller organizations can still do content marketing, but they may not have as many resources. So they may not be able to do in-person research or hire an agency to do research around, their particular audiences, or do a lot more audience segmentation. So I think that both large companies and small businesses can both do content marketing in a way that works for them. Maybe small businesses don't need to do all that research. Their customer base isn't as large or as segmented. So I think it works for both, and it's kind of a blessing that I'm able to see both sides of the coin. And I think it makes me a better marketer to be able to, see how large companies do it as well as how small businesses can do it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put you on the spot and I'm going to ask you for a recommendation, because I just was on a client meeting where we're working on something. And this is not just about social. I handle social, but we are basically a company of content. That's what we do. So we're looking for an app, a platform, a website, something to help us where the whole team can see what content's coming up, how to organize it, when is it, what's important, topics, categories, all of that kind of stuff. Anything you recommend? We're looking at a few, but I'm curious what you would recommend for a content management system.
Yep. So if you're talking about just content management, I can tell you we use Binder, which is a global DM, and we have 40,000 assets in there. It's beneficial because we have teams all over the world, and there's a lot of sharing going on. If you're talking about campaign management, so like full end-to-end, brief creation, workflow management, publishing, all of those kinds of things, Welcome is perfect, which was just purchased by Optimizely, if you didn't see that news. But they are pretty robust, and I think they have a version for small businesses as well.
Very good. Thank you. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you that, but it literally just happened in a meeting this morning. I'm like, oh, I'll bet Andy will have some recommendations. So I wrote those down. Thank you. And we'll compare those to the ones we're already looking at. So one of the things you mentioned was this content operations function. Is that something you've built out, or talk to us a little bit about what that is and how that can be replicated, whether you're a big business or a small business?
Yeah, so the role of content leader didn't exist in any of our what we call heritage companies, so Dow or DuPont. It was created specifically when we became Corteva. And my role was to kind of get everything set up and determine what needed to go into a world-class content operations function. And so it's the people, it's the processes, it's the platforms, it's all of those things. So, over the past few years, since we spun out as our own company, I've been building this operations up. We have a content council, which I've written about. I wrote a blog post for Content Marketing Institute about, and it has around 40 communicators from around the company, and we meet monthly. We have developed a content philosophy for Corteva that says, what we aspire our content to be and what we aspire for it to do. It's the platforms, which I mentioned earlier. So all of the different platforms that you need to manage your content operations, all the way from ideation to execution. And then, there's other pieces and parts. We needed to get buy-in from leaders. So that was part of my role as well. And I think that was partially, I wrote some of that in that blog post around the Content Council as well. So it's really been building up, and I imagine we'll be building this out even more over the coming years as we start to do more in the way of global content marketing campaigns. But we're also doing them locally. So last year we developed with an agency a content marketing workshop in a box. So basically everything that you would need to create or to run a content marketing workshop locally. So a marketer could pick up all of those materials. There's a facilitator guide. There is all of the slide decks, all of the preparation materials, leave behinds, mural boards, because everything is, virtual these days. They could pick all of that up and run a 2-day workshop, content marketing workshop, and come out of that with a plan in place to do a content marketing campaign.
So that is a ton.
Yeah, but when you're building something from scratch, there's a lot of work to be done. So we're getting more into the run and maintain now. We've had over the last several years, we've had to do all the RFPs around all of these platforms and lots of demos and determining which we were going to go with and getting them all set up and getting everybody onboarded and all of those things. But now we're really kind of in run and maintain mode, and we've got everything set up and we're moving along.
That's wonderful. Andi, I can't thank you enough. You have shared so much great information today with our viewers, whether they are working for a big company or a small company or a startup. There's so much here. So I hope that people will connect with you. I put up here how to find you on social, also how to find you directly on your website, hijinksmarketing.com. So thank you for bringing all of this knowledge. It's been very enlightening for me, and I'm sure it has been for others watching. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope that your dog enjoys the rest of his day. He's so cute. And have a great week. And for everyone else, I look forward to seeing you next week when my guest is Jen McGinley. You might know her on Twitter as JL Master Communications. I'll put that up there so you can see it. And I look forward to seeing everybody then. Until then, stay well, stay healthy. Don't lift weights that are too heavy. I know that I will not make that mistake again, but I'm going to keep getting stronger. So have a great week and keep it real.